what is CDSL, what is its role in the Indian securities market. Let's discuss this about CDSL, Central Depository Securities Limited, the largest depository in Asia and the second largest in the world, and what it is that they do. CDSL is classified as a financial market infrastructure company. As a central depository, it maintains details and records of every shareholder or bondholder in the country. So let's understand this. Every time a company issues shares, it issues a share with a certain number attached to it. And that is a unique identification number for that particular security. So according to the textbook definition of authorized capital and issued capital, the number of shares that are issued by the company are then listed on the stock exchange. Okay, so who keeps a tab on whether the stock is oversold, whether the stock has been delivered, and all these aspects of settlement is CDSL. CDSL takes care of all aspects of settlement as well as clearing on the Bombay Stock Exchange, that is the BSE. So let's understand the role of a depository, given that nowadays there are many cross-border transactions also that take place. Therefore, there's not just a CSD, that's a Central Securities Depository, but there are also international CSDs, that's the ICSDs. So at the very start, the first activity of the CDSL and in most depositories in the world is to numerically identify and explain every security that is issued by a company to its investors. These include both equities, and that includes all categories of equities, common stock, preference shares, everything, DVRs, etc. It includes bonds, and these include all category of bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds, and so on. Every security must have an ownership attached to it. Do we understand this? So when the security ownership has to be attached to that security, the record keeping of all of this is done at the depository level. So every company that wants to do a private placement with private equity funds, and as the company grows in its capital raising ambitions, they want to list the company on stock exchanges after raising capital from an IPO. They must get the shares dematerialized. In some countries, this is called as immobilized at the depository. So prior to an IPO, the depository must know the quantity of shares that are being issued, and then they go around assigning all the securities identification number along with the numbering agency. So once the stock is listed on the stock exchange, then every share that is traded has a change of ownership. So look at this. There is a stock exchange on which the stock is traded, and there is the issuer of the company's stock, right? The capital raising activity takes place at the time of the IPO or the primary market issuance. And once the stock is listed on the stock exchange, it is traded between different traders on the stock exchange. This is a secondary market activity. Over here, there is no capital raising activity in the secondary market as it is in the case of the primary market. So obviously there has to be some control mechanism, there has to be some identification mechanism, there has to be some methodology, control, regulation about how many shares can be settled. And that is the role of the depository. So at the very first instance, we saw that the depository's role comes in the time of listing the stocks on the stock exchange. After that, every trade is settled on the Central Depository Securities Limited, affiliated to the BSE or the Bombay Stock Exchange. All right. Now, every time there's an ownership change of the security, that is from the seller to the buyer, at the company level, it's the transfer agent, also called as the registrar or the issuing agent, who makes the transfer. But at a stock exchange level, at an ownership level, it is the depository that does the transfer of securities. This control mechanism is very important because we must not We can trade in any number of securities, okay, 10x the number of shares, issued shares, but at the time of settlement, it'll always be within that regulation. That's why we have very stringent laws and regulations regarding settlement of trades. This is the second activity of the CDSL. And the third very important activity of the CDSL that comes up is at the time of corporate actions. Every time a company issues a stock split, a bonus, a merger or an acquisition, a dividend, in fact, also, then CDSL records that issuance of shares. It records the issuance of the split shares. It records the issuance of the bonus shares. It records the change of ownership in the merger or acquisition from the selling company stock to the merged entity stock. All that is also taken care of by CDSL. So in terms of sheer financial market infrastructure, there is absolutely the entire range of activities that is needed, starting from issuance of the stock right up to listing of the stock on the stock exchange, and continuing further on to all the corporate actions that are associated, is handled by the transfer agent at a company unit level, but at the level of the shares on the stock exchange, it is handled by the depository. This makes depositories a very robust clearing and settlement platform. As markets evolve and as newer and finer products get traded on the stock exchanges, these include futures, options, derivative products, exotic derivatives, including OTC derivatives. They give a centralized clearing platform, a centralized settlement platform, even to non exchange trades. Okay, so the trade might take place in a decentralized manner, but the settlement will actually take place on a centralized platform. This is the role of the CCP, or the Central Clearing Counterparty, in many of the markets across the world. So this very important role of the CDSL, like DTC in the US, like other depositories across the world, is very critical for ensuring the smooth functioning of the stock exchange. The stock exchanges are trading billions of dollars every single day. And in a day where their markets are very volatile, like it has been since December 2024, to date, when I'm recording the interview in April 2025, the markets have seen dramatic price movements of high volatility, prices increasing, prices decreasing. The role of the CDSL gains importance because it should have a robust technology to be able to effect the transfers so that there can never ever be a settlement failure. If there's a settlement failure, and this, my friends, is less than even 0.01% of daily trades, but if there is settlement failure, it creates hiccups in the system. It creates liquidity problems, especially if the settlement failure tends to spill over to other trades as well. So to prevent all this, to be able to detect that all trades that have been conducted have been settled by T+1 and there is no outstanding trade, to also facilitate short selling settlements. This is the role of the depository in a country, and their role can never ever be minimized, because as markets grow, as trades grow, as volume soars in the markets, the role of the depository in ensuring a smooth, hassle-free settlement is extremely important. So just as how fast and quick the stock exchange trading platform is, the depositories settlement and clearing also has to be, or else the trades just cannot get settled. We would have innumerable problems about unaccounted for trades, and that just cannot happen. So therefore the role of the depository and the role of CDSL is very critical towards that 4 lakh crore that is being traded literally every single day on the Bombay Stock Exchange, or to that $800 billion that is being traded on the NYSE and the US stock markets. Thank you so much for listening.